Yakuza Like a Dragon is an RPG crossover from the long-running action beat-em-up Yakuza series. This time, instead of Kazuma Kiryu, the lead role belongs to Ichiban Kasuga, a man who forms a party of societal misfits to battle vicious criminal gangs in Hawaii using his imagination? Right. For context, the developers were fully self-aware of the challenge they faced, adapting an open-world action beat-em-up into a turn-based RPG. Drawing from previous success stories, they bridged the gap with timed mechanics and positional attacks that preserve the feel of real-time combat. This design philosophy mirrors how Square once adapted a certain red plumber into a turn-based RPG. Just as Super Mario RPG was Square's integration of Mario into the world of Final Fantasy, Like a Dragon is RGG Studios' love letter to Dragon Quest, filtered through Yakuza's grit, absurdity, and heart.
After all, every dungeon needs a tough boss at the end.
In true Yakuza fashion, the game's combat is as stylish as it is intense. As Kasuga shouts,
"Brace yourself!"
before bludgeoning an enemy, knocking him into other baddies for additional damage. He's more than willing to beat down those dastardly villains, using furniture as improvised weapons, or tools tied to whatever job class he's currently using, creating a dynamic cycle of combat that shifts effortlessly between intensity and comedy. The battle themes also change depending on which criminal faction you're fighting, whether it's the Barracudas,
Let's do it!
Yamai's Yakuza, and the Palakana Cult, each with their own distinct tracks.
Okay, I'm up.
Even better, major antagonists receive dynamic introductions as their boss battles begin, adding more intensity to the encounter. Yakuza Like a Dragon is truly a man's RPG. Though a bit long-winded, the opening chapter of Infinite Wealth is quite brilliant. Our hero Ichiban Kasuga is living his ideal life as Yokohama's champion, working at Hello Work to help former Yakuza find employment after the Great Dissolution. That is, until an online hit piece thoroughly destroys his reputation, his career at Hello Work, and worst of all, his dream of helping former Yakuza reintegrate into society.
Is this some kind of sick joke? God damn it, you gave me hope, you know that?
At his lowest point, Kasuga discovers that his long-lost mother, Akane, is in Hawaii, and so he embarks on another adventure to reunite with his lost family. But little does he know, evil has conspired to
Sweet dreams, Kasuga-san.
screw him over.
Where the heck am I? Whoa! Hey, what's wrong?
Oh my god! A stranger!
Well, that escalated quickly. And that was just chapter 2. In terms of gameplay and storytelling, Sega's achievement here is quite remarkable. It takes serious self-awareness and talent to successfully cross genres while retaining a series' core identity. However, Infinite Wealth also falls into a reoccurring trap, allowing its story to derail itself and undermining its core antagonist during the final act. There are two types of derailment at play. Direct derailment. Direct derailment occurs when the player is pulled directly off the main quest to perform a series of inane tasks that do not advance the stated objective. A primary example. In order to retrieve his passport, Kasuga must find Chitose, who used it to enter the Barracuda's hideout, a hostile location to outsiders and requiring a guide to access. So far, so good. However, when confronting Jeff, Kasuga is told he needs to pay $30 for this information. Ah, darn it. I'm $20 short. Now I gotta fight this conveniently timed encounter for the Palmace tutorial. This game stinks.
You found me! Oh, yes, thank you. Delivery!
Oh, lucky me. I won $30. That's exactly what I needed. Thank you, Infinite Wealth. Alright, Tomozawa, let's beeline it to Jeff's and... Yes. Please don't. Nah. For arbitrary reasons, the game sends me back to the beach to play a food delivery minigame just to earn $30. Then, I run all the way back to Jeff to pay him for information I could have already afforded. I don't dislike the minigame, but I'm not here to play crazy food delivery. I'm here to raid the Barracuda's hideout. In isolation, one derailment isn't a problem, but after enough of these distractions, I began suspecting that every chapter will start with one. Problem 2. Static derailment. Static derailment occurs when, despite the player's efforts in any story-related moment, the status quo for all sides of the conflict remains unchanged, and no meaningful developments occur. In short, it's filler. Kazuma Kiryu's entire character arc is to come to terms with his declining lifespan, reclaim his former strength as the Dragon of Dojima, and seek closure for his past encounters, all of which ultimately changes nothing about the central conflict. That's because Kiryu's antagonist is completely irrelevant to the main story. The stage on which the real conflict takes place, and the stated objectives, finding Akane and uncovering the instigators behind the conspiracy, are all located in Hawaii. Yokohama is simply irrelevant, leaving Kiryu to deal with the leftovers, namely his antagonist. This becomes increasingly apparent when, despite his best efforts, Kiryu is unable to change the status quo of his conflict.
You all bought it. Just like that. Sure, we might not have gotten rid of you, but I think we'll be fine either way.
That is until Kasuga took down his primary antagonist, which finally collapses the Palakana cult and resolves the central plot, which leads to my biggest issue, the game's two primary antagonists. Kasuga's antagonist is a well-written villain filling the wrong role. He's built a massive cult that conditions young orphans into sleeper agents, allowing him to gain control over Hawaii's criminal gangs, political class, and information networks. A conspiracy so vast that escape seems impossible. For most of the game, he's framed as a near mythical figure until the final confrontation. There, he is revealed as a greedy conman motivated purely by wealth and power, despite leading a cult of suicidal zealots. Having lived since before Hawaii became a U.S. state.
And then Palakana, by and large, was steeped in charity work, thanks to the sage and his wife. It was, perhaps, the least religious the group had ever been, you might say. Nevertheless, the Order had been gaining more and more wealth, even before Hawaii was annexed into the States.
And maintaining a private island guarded by a man-eating shark and a kraken.
The heck happened?
On paper, this should be the makings of a great villain. The problem is that he openly admits his motivations, laying bare his hypocrisy so plainly that it undercuts his horror and destroys his mystique.
Believers are asked to trust in some imaginary god, then pushed to do charity work and offer relief. Seems to me the fault lies with them. Yeah?
Even if I accept that he is merely a con artist, I'm still left wondering how he survived well past into his 80s with no signs of physical degradation, how he controls mythical creatures, and how he can seemingly locate anyone in the world. By explaining everything so bluntly, the game leaves me with more questions than answers. A more fitting archetype for his role would be Judge Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame. Frollo is horrifying because he masks his lust, envy, wrath, greed, and pride behind genuine religious zealotry, to the point of burning Paris to the ground in the name of righteousness. When compared to Frollo, these two villains were very similar, at least on a surface level. What Kasuga's antagonists lack is Frollo's zealous conviction, the kind that could have masked his insatiable greed and hypocrisy beneath a believable theology that he so thoroughly corrupted. He's still a good villain, but his archetype is simply mismatched.
This ends now!
The problem with Kiryu's antagonist is that he tells us what we already know. When it comes to villains, Kiryu clearly gets the shorter end of the stick. His antagonist's plans collapse the moment Kasuga dismantles the entire Palakana cult. What follows is a long monologue reiterating information the player already knows, before he gambles his entire scheme on a final brawl against the legendary Dragon of Dojima, a man with a long and well-documented history of destroying final bosses. The strongest argument for why Kiryu and his allies have been unable to change the status quo up to this point is that his antagonist has consistently remained 3 steps ahead of them. But issuing a direct challenge to the Dragon of Dojima and his cohorts implies the opposite, that he simply gives up, handing Kiryu the opportunity to dismantle his scheme. Alternatively, the narrative implication is that the writers could not find anything meaningful for Kiryu to do within his own character arc beyond mopping up the aftermath of Kasuga's victory. All in all, Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth is truly a love letter to classic JRPGs, particularly the Dragon Quest series, which it references quite extensively. Despite its shortcomings, the development team clearly understood what it takes to successfully transition an entire franchise into a turn-based RPG. When focused, the gameplay is intense, and the narrative is just as compelling. I genuinely respect Sega's efforts in crossing the series into the RPG genre, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the 3rd entry. Want more reviews? Click here or subscribe. Come, join my party.